I mean, the dreams that you bring, the audacity that you have, I think it's just so remarkable.
So tonight's panel will be held with one speaker from each generation. So we have Gen Z, my generation, woohoo! A millennial, Gen X, and baby boomer. Tonight we'll discuss what opportunities and challenges each generation has navigated and what they believe their generation uniquely brings to the table. We'll learn how we can better understand one another and what the needs are of those around us are and how we can help and also ask for help. So as they join us for this wonderful setup we have here, I'll also love to share their impressive bios because I was reading their bios and I'm like, whoo, it's impressive. Oh my goodness. So as they're coming up, I'm just gonna read our wonderful bios. We have Marthe Bakana. One round of applause for Marthe. Marthe is a fellow participant in cohort 8, so the cohort I'm currently in as well, so it's always great to see a colleague on stage. And Marthe is currently enrolled in animation and digital production at Durham College. Marthe is motivated to leave a positive imprint on the art and design world by pushing the boundaries of creativity and inspiring others through her work. Coming from a Congolese background, Marthe identifies as a Black Canadian navigating the complexities of connecting with a culture she hadn't directly experienced. Through her art and activism, she strives to bridge the gap in shared experience among first-generation immigrant children aspiring to make a lasting impact on her community. Eva Zhu is joining us from the incredible team at Cursace Paris. As a millennial immigrant, Eva brings experience from L'Oreal in both China and Canada to her role of marketing director with Cursace Paris, having witnessed firsthand the evolution of digital marketing and its impact on diverse consumer groups. She particularly is interested in exploring how different generations can bridge the gap between traditional and emerging marketing approaches to achieve shared goals. Her experience working across cultures has underscored the importance of inclusivity and understanding diverse perspectives. Salima Valji is an award-winning powerhouse speaker who ignites audiences focused on elevating the careers of women. Her action-oriented approach drives real progress, builds confidence, and boosts retention. Salima was recently awarded the 2023 recipient of the World of Difference Award by the International Alliance for Women, recognizing her impact to women's economic empowerment. Additional awards include Top 100 Speakers 2023 by Women in Tech and Global Women Power Leaders 2024 by White Page International. Salima is an executive coach and CEO of Unleash Forward. Sandra Bussin is a past deputy mayor of the City of Toronto and the first speaker of a municipal council in Canada, chairing City of Toronto Council meetings. Sandra started her political career as an elected public school trustee, followed by the election to Toronto City Council as a city councillor. She has served as a board member on the Red Door Family Shelter and as an executive board member of the Equal Voice chapter in Toronto, with a mandate to encourage more women to seek political office. Sandra was a past founding board member of Dare Arts Foundation, providing inner city children with arts education opportunities. She also recently joined as a volunteer member of the board of directors of the Don Valley Community Legal Services Board. Presently, Sandra is a coach on Fora's Network for Change Rise on Boards program, woohoo! And Sandra is now a professional realtor in Toronto. Give it up for Sandra. And of course, we can't forget our wonderful facilitator, Marija Shaw, for a Senior Management of Development and Operations. Marija is devoted to promoting gender equity and advocating for women, girls, and gender diverse people around the world. A passionate fundraiser, she loves to highlight the spaces where community needs and donors' interests intersect, stewarding gifts to build a more equal future.
It's always so cool to hear the introductions to everyone. And all of the incredible people that are involved with Fora, as I know everyone in the crowd has equally incredible bios. But just in recognition of us being in a living room, in a home, the vibe of hanging out with our best friends, a bunch of people who we share common values with, all that good stuff. I wanted to invite each of the panelists to share something about themselves that you want people who you care about to know about you. What do you want people to know beyond your bio? What do you care about? What's important to you that people here tonight and your friends and family kind of think about when they think of you? We'll start with Martha, if I can.
First, I'd like to say how wonderful it is to be on this panel, especially with these lovely women. Hearing their bios is truly inspiring. But yeah, a bit about myself. I guess how friends and how I would describe myself to friends is I like to lead with I am a woman of God. So I ground myself in my faith very seriously. I also identify myself as a daughter. So as you heard from my bio, I do come from a Congolese background, and my background really does shape who I am and how I interact with the world around me. At my core, I do believe I am a storyteller. So with my art, I do study animation, and I do try to tell stories for my community, other communities, and represent them in the best way possible. And I really do strive to be a change maker and try to uplift every space I enter in. So I guess that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Amazing. So casual. Just there's a little bit about me. Eva, how about you?
Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. My name is Eva. I'm a first generation immigrant. This is how we say it. So English is not my first language. As my mentor, Salima, I just decided you're my mentor. Okay. She actually advised me, I have to say that as a disclaimer. So if I misgender, because in Chinese, he and she, her, it's not very, it's not the same concept here. So do apologize if I messed up the gender here. I do apologize. One of the things that I wanted to also say is also, as actually suggested by my mentor here, she asked me to go back to my life purpose. So when I was thinking about my life purpose, it's actually very early I decided to spark the what if. Growing up in China, I have a childhood friend. I decided to be very personal here, excuse me. I have a childhood friend who always asks the question. She's always asking, what if, why we're doing that? And it always got me thinking, so she's the most intelligent person that I've ever met growing up. And as a lot of us, the same, we grew apart and she moved to another city. I lost contact with her, and the latest news I got from her is actually the mom telling me to attend her funeral. Mm-hmm. So I find out she committed suicide because the society refused to, let her ask the questions. It's the teachers and the classmates actually bully her. So at that moment, I decided I wanted to become the defender to support the people who ask the question, who ask the what if, to wanted to go beyond boundaries, challenge the status quo, and ask the what if. So that's why I worked in the most creative company and most creative team. I'm super proud of my team, and I'm super proud to be here. I listened to Martha, she wanted to be a storyteller. I hope one day you get to work with us together. I hope I have the luck. So yeah, if today I get to see some of you and hopefully I can help a little bit of the dream come true, that will give me absolutely so much pleasure and will fulfill my personal dream and purpose. Yeah, I guess that's me.
So much. So beautifully said. Salima, how about you?
Okay, after listening to those two, I feel like, I have a lot to live up to. When we first started, I said, you guys are the stars of the show. I mean, the dreams that you bring, the audacity that you have, I think it's just so, so remarkable. And yes, I will be your mentor. Absolutely. So what I like to share a little bit about myself that's also shaped me that you wouldn't find on my LinkedIn profile is I'm an African woman as well. I'm a third generation Kenyan. I emigrated to Canada when I was a wee baby. And my parents did something really wild. They went and bought a farm, a poultry farm in rural Alberta. We were the only people of color around. So our childhood was really different. We were beat up on the bus. We were called Packy. Nobody really wanted to be our friends. And so it was a very different kind of experience that's really shaped who I am today and has shaped the work that I am doing. I've evolved from that and have been welcomed in so many incredible spaces and have enjoyed different privileges. And what I would also say is like the other piece that has influenced who I am and the business that I have built today is that in my first vice president job, I actually was fired. And I was fired not because of my performance. I had stellar performance, but I wasn't taking care of my image and working on some other pieces, getting more sponsors, et cetera. And so that experience, I spent a lot of time in shame. And when I kind of got out of that, I kind of was like, okay, I don't want other people to go through this. And I really want to help other women, other executives, other leaders to be able to accelerate in their careers and succeed in their careers, and not, if you don't have a roadmap, there is a roadmap. And so that's really kind of shaped who I am and the work that I do today.
Amazing. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm glad I asked this question. Sandra, we'll turn to you.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful to be here today, and everybody in this room, I think, wants to contribute in some way to their community. And it's great to see my first young woman that I coached, Khadija, is here tonight, and she's had an amazing, well, I think you've done more interesting things than I ever did when I read what you're doing these days. But for me, community is a big part of what drives me, and I enjoy being out there working with various groups. I haven't put on my bio some of the organizations that I've been involved with. I did grow up here in Toronto in the east end of the city, pretty working class neighborhood, really no mentors at all, had to find my own way. And that's what I enjoy now is when I do the coaching, I can talk about certain directions if you're interested in a political career, what you might want to test and try. And it gives me great pleasure to be able to provide that level of support. I thought I was going to start out as an artist. I still am an artist. I like doing life drawing and portrait, and I gave that up at a certain point. My first job at Queen's Park, I did a little bit of graphic arts to get out our reports. We didn't have all the stuff that you have today. You had to put it together on a piece of paper, et cetera. And it's quite different now. But I've tried to go back a little now when I have some time to go back and start the drawing again. And when I hear about your career, I hope you keep going in that direction. Yeah, really, it can be very exciting. One of the things I didn't put on my little bio there was recently I became what's called a puppy raiser. Oh. And this was for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. They were looking for people who could take in a puppy, 8 weeks or so, and raise them basically for 2 years. And the basics, and then CNIB takes them over, and they have a campus, believe it or not, out in Ottawa, where they do the rest of the training. So that's been one of the highlights for me, was having that opportunity. And I met a whole lot of other people who do this and give up the pup at a certain point, which is pretty tough to do. But it's going to someone who really needs that level of support. So that's basically it. I'm driven by community and what I can do to help make things better for people. And I continue to do that, and it gives me a sense of purpose.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's so nice to hear And I'm so grateful to all of the panelists for being so like open and authentic, because it's so nice to hear how we are all multi-dimensional, right? Like we can hear one another's bios and be like, oh my gosh, like I could never, accomplish that, or wow, like your whole life must be this one thing. You must, spend so much time working, and that's probably the case for many of us. But it's so nice to hear what drives everyone, and also like this, just some of those aspects about your personal life are just so relatable. So thank you. And I think it's a big part of the conversation that we're having today is, as we talk across generations, and we have this very like intergenerational conversation, it can be so easy to draw lines between generations, right? To be like, well, you're, a few decades older than me or younger than me, so we probably have very different experiences. And in many cases, I know we will find that that's the case, but I think this conversation will also show how many similarities we all have and how much we can learn from each other, no matter what that gap might be. So let's get started. So I would love to hear from each panelist what you think the opportunities and challenges you've experienced have been, or you've seen your peers have been, that are unique to your generation. I won't pick on Martha to start this time. We'll mix it up. Eva, how about you? We'll start with you.
Oh my God. As a millennial, I feel we're the bridge between up and down, right? So really right here is our bosses. Right here is our great team. So our bosses usually demand, I'm speaking not for my panel friends, I'm speaking for my bosses actually. So my bosses, I know you have a greater expectation for the team, but my bosses usually expect the team to work long hours, hardworking, and they want face-to-face connections. And my team right there, and they expect really the work smart but not hard. Everything has to have a purpose. They need a system in place. They don't really want it to always go to work. They want it to have a work and life and work smart mechanism. So really in the middle, I feel like I have to manage up and I have to manage down. We really need to put a system in place, making sure our bosses are happy, and our team is also happy too. So I think it's not sort of a challenge, but it's an interesting, I would say, skill set that our generation is getting, is to really manage the art of communication and also the politically correct, and also manage expectation.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point as a fellow millennial, that especially like in the workplace right now, a lot of millennials are in our 30s, early 40s, and we now have Gen Z who are largely like in their 20s, who might report to us, and in some cases, like in full recognition of many of the people in this room, we might also report to. Like many Gen Zs are also in leadership roles, and obviously that's the work we do at Fora, is to try to get them there. But just recognizing that it is that role of, there's so much kind of bridge building between some of those different perspectives and expectations that come from different generations, or even just different like experiences in the workplace, right? Like whether you can have a very tech savvy, somebody in the baby boomer generation, or not so much, and have to kind of be supporting with that as well. So I think it's a really interesting perspective. Salima, I'd love to hear from you next.
Yeah, sure. So I'm seeing a lot of young faces. So I just want to paint the picture of what life was like for us when, if you think about technology-wise, we didn't have email. Long distance was really expensive. We wrote letters. Sorry, I didn't have this either growing up. So, when we wanted to listen to a song, we were sitting by the radio, and then you would hit record for your tape recorder, and the most fabulous gift from a boy would be, what's the word? Thank you, a mixtape. That was the all in all, right? And so, that's the kind of place that we came from. So today you're the bridge builder, but I actually see when I was in my career that we were the bridge builders between the boomers and the millennials. So I think as we've been able to witness the technology change, but we've also witnessed the leadership change. We went from being very hierarchical to a very flat-based. Yeah. And so today, that's your everyday, but we had to work through that transition. We also witnessed women's voices rising in the workplace, women's acceleration into different, their acceleration into boardrooms and into more higher positions. And so we had a chance to witness that as well. And so I would say that those are some of the opportunities that we bring, witnessing those changes that have happened. And I think some of the challenges is just the pace of technology. It is just, I come from this digital space and now I feel like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. So I think that is one of the challenges.
Yeah, I see that for sure. And I want to build on what you said maybe a little bit to say that, and give credit, because I think your generation didn't only witness that change. You're a big part of the reason that change took place, right? So like without Gen X, which is often considered kind of the forgotten generation. We hear a lot about millennials. We hear a lot about baby boomers. I
just want to add to that. You're so right about that. When I was doing research for this panel, I found an article from The Economist, and it was just written in May of this year, and they call us the loser generation.
Yikes.
And one of the points that they talk about was that based on Google search, Gen X receives 50% less of the searches compared to all the other generations.
Oh, wow.
That was just one of their points that they were leading to their assertion in the article.
Yeah. So I can imagine like just part of that challenge would be recognizing like, okay, I'm seeing this all white male cisgender, leadership in a lot of spaces, and we have to fight kind of tooth and nail to change that. And then also like existing in the space where that change is happening and there's a lot of resistance. And many of us can relate to that. Unfortunately, that's still happening today. But I think it's a super interesting perspective. So yeah, I just want to give the credit of like, you didn't just witness it. I think you were also like a large part of making it happen. So thank you. Amazing.
Thank you.
Salima. Yeah.
I wish I could speak for the whole generation.
All right, Sandra.
Well, I'm supposedly a boomer. I was never really aware of what I was, but very similar to what you're talking about. But the choices going through the public school system were really limited for young women. Teacher, nurse, clerk, those were basically the direction. And, I was listening to the throne speech, and they were talking about when Queen Elizabeth came to Canada in 1957, and it was somewhat just after the Second World War. Well, I realized when I listened to that, because you don't always think, as anyone else, about your background and what happened when you were a kid, but it had a profound effect on my family. My father was in the military. My mom's brothers were all in, whatever they were doing in the Second World War and Air Force, whatever. And I could never really understand why my parents didn't want to go forward. I think they were waiting for the next war. And it was very prevalent. They didn't want to spend money. You did everything with your family. Their expectations for you were that as well. Nurse, doctor, clerk, that was it. There wasn't much else that they were offering. And as I mentioned, I did have an ability to draw, and I did go to one of the high schools here in the West End, even though I was way over in the East End because it was the best school. And I would go there on the summers and at night. And I also went to the museum, had a Saturday morning club. That really made a difference for me. I was traveling on my own. It used to be a streetcar along Danforth Bloor. I was in grade 4, going all the way downtown on my own and going to the local, there was a little place you could get chips after or whatever. But that sort of set a level of independence for me that I never realized how important that was going to be. And when I decided, I don't know whether I ever really decided whether I was running for office or not. It sort of happened. It was sort of things that just kind of fell in place. And I could write, and I wasn't afraid to speak, and I kind of got into it. But, it's hard to really give advice on that because I kind of fell into it. I can't say it was my purpose in life or whatever. So it wasn't, that easy to get ahead in spite of what you hear about boomers. It really wasn't. And when I became a trustee, I was a public school trustee, in the East End, you wouldn't believe how many schools, they called it streaming. After you left grade 6, there were a number of schools where they were only giving kids another 2 years, and they expected them to go out and be the workers. And the group that I was with trustees, we were doing our best to try to bring an end to that, because it wasn't just working class kids, it was the new people who were coming to Toronto and what the expectations were for their children. And this group I was with wanted more for every kid. Every kid deserves a chance to succeed, and it was really quite structured. Who got ahead and who didn't. In fact, somebody just became an agent and they didn't know how to do the automatic signing. They didn't know how to get onto the MLS system. And I enjoyed working with her and helping her to get started. So, even for the generation of the new real estate agents, they've got to learn this stuff too. So, it's good to keep ahead with what's going on. I don't expect to be an absolute expert, but I have to know a certain amount to survive. I'm still working, everybody. So, anyway.
I love you highlighting that, that we can see age as a barrier, but that it can be kind of like a refocusing or viewing something in a different light of that, we're all working together as a team. It might be even working together towards a shared value or a shared goal and being a team to accomplish that. I think is a really beautiful perspective. It's great. Martha.
Yeah. One thing I really feel like my generation really champions is diversity and inclusion. And especially in the workforce, really do strive to make sure that everyone is represented, especially underrepresented communities and gender marginalized individuals. One thing that I noticed in my own personal experience working with our marketing team, we were trying to develop design materials for a campaign about educational courses. And within that space, I did notice that there wasn't a lot of representation in people of color in the stock photos that we were using. And I did mention it to my superiors who were of older generations, because a lot of them are my managerial staff are always, millennials, Gen X, Gen Y. And it's always to them, we're always looking for I'm sorry, I'm just going to train of thought a little bit. But we're always looking to the older generations to kind of help us fulfill or help us reach. I'm so sorry, guys.
No, I think you're doing great. If I can summarize, it sounds like you're saying that often older generations aren't necessarily as conscious of ensuring that whether it's their colleagues and employees aren't diverse, they're not necessarily as focused on inclusion, whether it's marketing assets that go out to say that we've certainly seen marketing campaigns go out that are a bunch of white men, and that's really annoying, and to say that sometimes Gen Z can have a really good eye to be this is a problem. And sometimes for sure I can say as a millennial that there was a kind of a reckoning during my time as in my career so far, right, and I'm in my 30s, that there was a time before when that seeing that level of diversity would have been something that you might not be as conscious of. And I think that Gen Z does a phenomenal job of being hello, this is a problem, that sometimes, those of us that have that kind of before and after period, and I should say have the immense privilege of, certainly as a white woman, I have that incredible privilege of not being as aware of that or not recognizing that that's a problem. And I think that's true. I think that's a huge asset that Gen Z brings to the table. Yeah. Can I ask a question? So what would you say some of the challenges that you find your generation kind of navigates that you feel you need help from other generations to?
Yeah. Especially Gen Z being the youngest of the generations in the workforce.
Yeah.
I do see there's a lot of stigmatization. And I feel it's prevalent with anyone, any generation as they were entering the workforce. There's always that stigmatization of oh, you're young, you don't know everything yet, so I'm not always going to give you these big opportunities. But one thing I do realize for my generation is we are like capable, we are able, we've gone through all the tasks that all the other generations have gone through. And I feel like right now it's a lot about paying your dues first before you get it. Whereas a bit what Salima had said, that the older generation, they're there for, they're always there to reach out for mentorship and
Yeah.
and for opportunities and to guide us. And I'm really thankful that I've had amazing work opportunities where I did have great leadership and great staff. And even with the campaign that I was working on, where there was a bit of a disconnect, I had reached out to my supervisor, and I was amazingly received, and we were able to add more people of color to that campaign. And I'm so thankful that I had that opportunity, and I had that support from other generations to even have my voice be heard in that aspect.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, and I think that like, it's that ageism thing, right? Of like, well, you're a young person, so you probably don't know what you're talking about. Like, I feel like everyone in this room has probably experienced it. And then pairing it with gender-based discrimination of like, well, you're a young woman, or you're a young non-binary person, like, you have no idea what you're doing here, kind of thing, is certainly still very prevalent. And I think like us all being aware of it, and also recognizing like, this is not a me issue, right? Like, it's so easy to take that personally and be like, oh, this person doesn't think I know what I'm doing, so I probably don't. But recognizing like, oh, this is a systemic issue. Like, this person's looking at me and saying like, oh, you're 22, you're a woman, or you're a non-binary person, like, you don't really belong here, and saying like, that's not a me issue, that's a them issue, and I'm just going to continue to move forward. I'm going to continue to push forward. I'm going to continue to advocate for myself and others. And there's just like a lot of power in that. Nice, thank you. Eva.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Martha, because the generation Gen Z have such a great challenging spirit, and they ask tons of questions and make the society a much better place. I just wanted to know, how did you come up with such a visionary pinpoint that rally everybody to pay attention and make a society a better place? I wanted to give a big shout out and round of applause to your generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I also wanted to I feel really humbled to sit next to the great two women right here. They are the role models, actually, our generation. I can speak for Martha, if I may. I feel like our generation really look upon the woman right next to us. You guys set up such a great models and example for all of the young women like us. I hope I'm still can say myself, yeah. But young women like us that really wanted to be you when we're at that stage. And you guys have such a great interpersonal relationship with everyone. You have such a strong community building skills. You were able to show confidence in front of everyone. You'll be able to connect with everybody. That is the skill that I feel in my generation we really want to learn. So thank God that you're my mentor now. So that I feel like the future leader is really needed, and the young woman like us really wanted to learn from you. So as I've like really wanted to get from the other generation, that's what I was thinking. And I feel like humbly, in my generation, I can speak from my own personal experience. Really, it's a little bit of the resilience aspect out of it, since we are navigating our job opportunity throughout a lot of recession. I give you an example, like when we just start our job application, when I just started, it's the Great Recession. Yeah. And then when it's COVID, I'm just started to buy my first house. And a lot of my friends started to just have their first family, have their first kids. So we were really starting to able to navigate our financial choices, our job opportunity, understanding there is a family pressure, but also wanted to do what the things we wanted to do. I think our generation was thinking a lot and gained some experience, good or bad, but really we were able to share with, I think, the younger generations or our peer generations that are navigating the same situation, especially right now we're talking about recession again. So, but I'm sure our Gen X and boomer generation will have a better experience, because when I heard World War II, I'm like, oh, this is something we wanted to learn too. So, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it ties beautifully into our next question. So thank you. Because I think it's hard these days. I'm sure many in this room have experienced the same thing. It's hard to talk about anything these days without also talking about the economy and our experience with said economy. So we're all experiencing a rising cost of living, really high housing costs, looming tariffs, sorry to say the T word, high unemployment rates. So I have a little stat here to share from the National Bank of Canada. So they shared that young people aged 15 to 24 tend to suffer more than other cohorts when the job market is weak, and the current episode is no different. So recognizing the current like challenging economic situation that we're in, that age demographic of like 15 to 24, those really critical foundational years of all of our careers, is the group that suffers the most during those times. And you really refer to that for ourselves as millennials. We experienced that during the Great Recession of like, you graduate post-secondary, there are no jobs because, you know, it's a tough market. And Gen Zs and today's generation that's currently, you know, experiencing a lot of the same things are really significantly impacted by that. And that's really why we do the work that we do at Fora with young women and gender marginalized youth in that age group, just recognizing like these are critical foundational years in a career. And if it's hard to get a job, if you're not able to get a job, if you're not able to advance in your career as of that point, it's really hard to then build from there and advance your career and access leadership roles, be able to access a, you know, wage that will let you live in the city you work in, all that good stuff. So I'm interested to hear from each of the panelists, really kind of specifically what you think your role as it relates to that is. So Martha, I'll start with you if I may. So you are someone currently in that age demographic. You're currently kind of experiencing this of launching your career, you know, trying to find a job in your field of choice, trying to access, you know, maybe new housing, all of that fun stuff. What support do you think you and your peers need most right now in order to be able to like pursue your dreams, achieve your goals, get into those like positions of like authority and influence?
Yeah, so Gen Z, I feel like what we're really looking for right now in navigating our new leadership opportunities, really looking for access and the ability to build meaningful professional networks. I feel like with all of the older generations, you guys kind of already have a flow to it. You guys get like the hang of it a lot. So especially with myself in navigating like my professional space, being in the art world, I feel like it's really important, especially with the previous film strike that we had. Right now, there isn't a lot of jobs out there. And a lot of my professors and peers were really guiding me and telling me to like maybe look for like other opportunities outside of what you're really focusing on, and also really try networking with a lot of your peers and older generations. So I feel like we're really looking for that mentorship, that guidance on how to move forward, and especially as you said that, you know, you came into the job market during a recession, and right now we're kind of still a bit in a recession. So how did you like navigate that a little bit? Like how do we move forward in finding those meaningful opportunities? Yeah.
Yeah, so if I may,
Please.
I think the question is addressed to me. So definitely, like, I feel like I don't want to do a commercial here, but I do wanted to say that, like, I'm really grateful to work in a brand that launched this brand cause with Fora together. So Power Talk, we actually have two type of mentorship. One is with the event like today, we try to inspire as much of possible all the audience in the group, but also we wanted to also foster, we're brainstorming with Fora, a kind of intimate format of mentorship, more personalized, one-on-one, we call it flash mentorship. So really give a personalized recommendation and consultation to young folks like Martha, to really provide advice and provide a personal network and to customize a career opportunity. I was in China when I was started to navigate my job, and I was lucky enough to find a coach actually work for L'Oreal. She gave me the internship today. I work for L'Oreal for 15 years, and she's still my coach and my mentor in China. So I think really is able to build that personal relationship, understand you, and then try to give you a very personalized career designing plan is kind of important. And so very grateful that we have this relationship with Fora, that we can probably build this program in life soon.
Us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love what you said, because I think that is a really key part of the challenge for Gen Z is, and just anyone really, right? Like, I think it could also apply if you're like new to Canada and you're like trying to find a job for the first time in this country, and you don't have that like established network that you can call and be like, hey, who do you know that works in my industry that you could introduce me to, right? And I love that your point was like, it is like to build your professional network, it's like identifying potential mentors. Like, who are those people that already work in the industry that you want to work in, that you want to connect with? Who are those people who like maybe aren't hiring right now, but they can make recommendations to you to say like, these are the other people that you should reach out to. Like, I know for myself, when I was trying to launch my career for the first time, I did so much LinkedIn outreach and just set up like cold informational interviews. Like, I was like, who should I talk to? Who has a job that I want to have? Who do I want to work for one day? And just like literally going through LinkedIn and identifying them was like why I'm here today. So anyways, just to say, I think that is part of the challenge that Gen Z is navigating right now, is that lack of professional network. And that's also the solution, is building that network and identifying those mentors. And we're so grateful for Caritas that they're going to be able to help us. We already have such a strong mentorship program, as you all know, but to be able to strengthen that, provide new training opportunities for folks, provide more support, I think will be just so exciting.
If I may add,
Please,
also the ability to think out of the box beyond the mentorship, beyond LinkedIn. And so I want to share a story that's inspired by one of my students. I used to be a marketing professor at George Brown, and she was new to Canada. And she had a brand manager job at a top pharmaceutical company, but just no one was interested in hiring her in Canada. So she ended up got a job as a host at the Fairmont, or one of the big hotels, in the restaurant. And so every day she would look at the reservations and see everybody who was coming in. She'd look everybody up on LinkedIn. And then if they asked her what she did, she would then talk about what she does and then start to build a relationship, only if they asked her. But the amount of work that she did, and she knew who was coming into that restaurant, she was starting to formulate relationships. And that is how she ended up landing a job in finance. And that's how she was able to start to build her network. So it takes creativity. There are assets around you that you may not be recognizing that they're assets, and that's the unusual way. Maybe takes a lot more. But I would encourage to get creative.
I love that. I think that's a great idea, because it's like, how can I access people within my current resources, right? And having that creativity and being innovative is such a smart recommendation.
Yeah, and even though you're working in a job that's not connected to what you want to be doing, how can you bridge that? How can you somehow find your way to it?
Totally.
Sometimes there's a way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts, Salima, on how you think maybe your generation can support Gen Z or other like young women and gender marginalized people that are kind of coming up during a challenging time?
You know, our boomers helped to really advocate for pregnancy and for that leave. And today, Generation X is now advocating for menopause in the workplace.
Yeah.
And really so that the younger generations don't need to do that work. And so it's about identifying and finding, now the mantle will be being passed to you, Eva, as to what you want to stand for and what you want to make sure that Martha doesn't have to go through when she's accelerating in her career. So I think it's not being afraid to take a stand and being able to speak up and to share like what it is that the change that you want to create.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to say that what Fora is all about is that opportunity for a young woman to get onto a board and meet other people. And Khadija, who's here, she was on the National Club, and at first we were both concerned that that wasn't the right location for her. But in the end, she ended up doing a major event for the club, which was just amazing. And I think to this day, you still benefit from that experience. So as a community, we need to be doing more of the foras, is what's so important. And when you do have that connection as a coach, you too are trying to connect people to your contacts to hopefully get them hooked into something that they would enjoy doing. And the same was true. We would be asked, because I was one of the first coaches.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we were being asked, like, who can you suggest, what organization that will be like Red Door? For instance, I was on the Red Door Family Shelter. So now there is, I think there still is, a young person from Fora who's on that board. It's a really good board. And when you're on that board, then you get a chance to meet, and it's usually women on these kinds of nonprofit boards, and they're all quite successful. Very successful, many of them. And it was intimidating at times, even for me. But, you know, that's the way you make those connections.
Yeah.
And that wasn't available when I was growing up. And it is now, and let's keep building on Fora. I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, and I thank you so much for raising that, because it's part of why we place our program participants on boards of directors, is they get that like experiential leadership opportunity, but then they also have the opportunity to connect with those other board members, other people associated with the organization they've been placed on, to help build their network and also show how like phenomenal that they are. So thank you. So I just want to end this. I think that these kinds of conversations are so exciting and really like inspiring, and then it can be very easy to leave the room and just go like, that was cool. So I wanted to kind of close this out with like an action item that we all want to take away. So 1 minute each, just to help keep us on track. But what's one action item that you each want to take away from today's conversation, either that you want to take away or that you recommend someone in the room takes away? I will start with Martha. I'm sorry, it's the last time I'm going to pick on you, but if you can go first.
Yeah, one action item that I feel like I'm taking away from this panel is to really seek out that intergenerational connection and communication, hearing from all of you guys with all of your wonderful experiences that you've had. I'm just really soaking it in. I'm just like, oh, like I didn't think that you would also have that like same experience, or like, oh, like this is very similar to what I'm going through right now. So I'm just really trying to soak it up and take that into my more professional experiences. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Eva.
Yeah, so the biggest things I think I will take away is, I think Salima just mentioned, like, we are all the bridge of the generation, among generation at some point. And what she was saying is super inspiring, is we all have responsibility for the next generation coming. And definitely I'm going to build on the mental part for sure. But it's exactly what vision and what purpose that your generation is finding for the next generation. How do you really discuss with the next generation to fine-tune that vision, and making sure we're working on the same synergized speed is what I will think definitely will keep in touch with Martha together.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you.
My action item is really simple. More events, more in-person connection. I think we've been lost behind screens and forgotten maybe how to do this, but I cannot tell you how much goodness comes from the in-person. So attend more events. Make the time for it.
I love that. Sandra.
Yeah, well, my whole life has been with people, and I found the whole, Zoom meetings really tough. It's not my thing. I don't like it. I'll tell you that right now. I want to be in a room with people. I want to be up close. I want to get to know them. I don't feel like I say to my friend, she likes Zoom. I said, I just can't get into it. It's just not me. But I think don't be afraid. Approach somebody, just like you heard that story. Approach people. They're not that frightening when you actually try it. And maybe it doesn't work out once or twice, but don't give up. And it's the human connection that I think is so important. I think women have started to really make their place as leaders in our country and our communities, and we've only got to go further up. That's the way I look at it. I honestly was never really in a men's world. But when my daughter's in finance in one of the banks, and I listen to, I go, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I didn't have to do that. But anyway, women are the leaders, the change agents. Keep going, keep doing what you really want to do. And don't be afraid to ask people for help. That's my suggestion.
I love that. Beautiful takeaways. Thank you all so much. I hope that you found this conversation as inspiring and invigorating and fueling as I did. And thank you so much to all of our panelists for contributing your experience and expertise and perspectives and being so open and authentic. I think it's a really, really rich conversation because of it.